Start recording. Okay. Yeah. So the question was about. Let me get those.
Are you sharing
ZPAM.
your screen and I'm not seeing it,
Oh no,
or
I was just gonna read it
okay.
here, but here I can show the screen. Share my screen. Cool. Can you see?
Watch. Okay.
Yeah. So is ZPAM and Zolam. When I looked
Okay.
at them off the chart I was looking at, they were it basically you said that they were incorrectly labeled, and I just need to make sure I was getting the correct one. So here's what I was operating off of. This chart that you had previously. So if you go to Zolem and Zapam right there, they're benzodiazepines, and you told me that that's not correct, right?
I think okay. So how come that won't get bigger for me? Can you zoom in a bit for
Oh
me?
yeah. Here, um, yeah,
Ooh, there we go.
this way.
Um.
There we go. Okay, so
Okay. Zolam and Zipram.
yeah,
Okay.
so
So
these
let me
two right
pull
here.
something up real quick to see, because when I googled it, it looked like there was Zolam.
Yeah, what you said previously was that that's the generic term, and so neither of them should even have that designation.
Yeah, that's the brand. So we need to have, oh, okay, I see what's happening. So it is called Zolam, but then there is a brand called Zolam, but we're putting it with the dash in front of it. So, because the generic is actually alprazolam. So you still have the Zolam part of it.
So
So we'll want to make sure that the dash is in there, because that's where it's getting kind of confusing. But it is a benzodiazepine for sure.
okay, so maybe
So
we change the designation and keep the benzodiazepine. Hi, Gabby, by the way.
Hi.
hi, Gabby.
Hey, we're talking
How's it
pharmacology. You might
going?
be able to help us.
I know, right?
You know the pro you are, and the pro all of us are in this.
Hey, I
Um,
just want to say, like, I watched some Doctor House and I heard them talk about tyrosine, and I was like, I know that one. I know that
you
word
were
now.
like, boom.
Yeah, I felt so smart for no reason. It was really great.
Okay, so we've got barbiturates and then benzodiazepines. So I feel like
Yeah, so here this is, I guess it's these four. It's all in the same section. The anti-anxieties. That's where all the problems are. So I just left out these four and put them to a later phase in level one. We can always move it back, but I just want
I
to
guess
talk
I
about
even
it.
don't get why they're problematic.
Well, the problem I had was I just didn't understand. So we're keeping. Okay, so the pill bottle will say benzodiazepine, like that's fine for the
Yeah,
pill bottle. Yeah, and would it be for both of them? And this should have been just moved up.
yeah,
Okay,
that's exactly.
all right,
Yeah,
it's simple. So there's three in this category. Okay, and what
yeah.
about for anxiety slash sedation? Should that be included in the title or anything like that, or it's just
I don't think we need to have it. Probably won't fit on the bottle very well. So, I mean, honestly, they need to be able to go, okay, benzo, it,
Mhm.
and that honestly, that one's pretty easy for the
Yeah,
students.
that's fine.
Once
So
they're familiar with it. So benzodiazepines should be
okay,
sufficient on the
I think
bottle.
if it's only going to be three, then that's totally easy then. I think what I'm
We
going
can
to do.
add another.
Um, well, that's an option as well. What I was going to say is that we make the lower respiratory the last one because that has four, so we're building up to the harder, the fourth
Because we
one.
wanted three, right? So let me come up with another category of, because we got barbiturates, benzos, and
And local anesthetics for anti-anxiety. So what's another anti-anxiety slash anesthetic?
let me see, uh, anti. Medication. Medication. Oh shit, ketamine. That's intense. Uh, SNRIs, benzo. Hmm. I think I might have just found one.
Okay. So once again, this is adding a new pill into the game, then, right?
Yeah, because the idea was that we were scaffolding it to increase in the number of pill bottles, right?
Yeah.
And so this was where they would hit three.
Um, well, it could work either way. So basically, it would go from one to two, and then three would be antidepressants, and then it was going to be four was anti-anxiety, then four again for lower respiratory. So we can either have two,
No,
two,
let's just
three.
leave it then. Yeah, if we have
We
it
have
going
enough.
in order like that,
Yeah,
that's fine. We'll just
it's
leave it.
it's occurring at a good spot, I guess is my point. But yeah. So
Yay!
okay. Yeah.
Well,
No.
yeah,
Sweet.
we'll just keep it that at that.
Okay, sweet. All right, so yeah, that clears that up, so I can finish up that. So yeah, let me show you what that does to the chart. Um, can I get my zoom, my view normal? Is it control zero? No, not that.
It's all hide all your columns.
There we go. Got it. Okay, yeah. So this is my progress. Yeah, so I got the flags and wrote written down in the script, and I got them assigned to the pills. And
Yeah.
these green ones were the ones that I was just asking you about. And yeah, so previously I was trying to. The reason we had all of them divvied up is because I thought that people were going to be working on it throughout the last class. So it looks
I
like there's
think
not
we
a
all
bunch of
thought we
people.
would be, and then when Tracy's was like, do all the things, we were like, oh my
Do
God.
all the
So
things for one credit. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, and thank you for keeping it moving, especially so that we can have, because it sounds like we're essentially really close to having level one completed.
Yeah, so
Is there,
the
are you
heavy.
missing pill bottles or
Yeah,
pills
definitely. That's the
for?
next thing I was gonna say.
Okay.
So, first thing I
Okay.
was gonna say is, yeah. So it's just these need to be imported, and then just, oh, and I guess this one as well. And then it would take like 2 minutes just to add re-add all the flags. And I can do that for everyone. It's easy. And
Okay.
then everything's working. I got it tested and everything. And then it's just the artistic thing of moving the pills around. I do want to point out though that now that there's only three prefabs, it gets redundant quick, and so what I would recommend is the reintroduction of the white pill, because that if we do the color changing is another option, or if not the color changing, it's already there because I know you built these off of a white prefab. So if you still have those white prefabs made of a lot of these, then that'd be helpful. If not, don't worry about it. We'll just work with what we got.
I think because it is relatively quick, we don't need to, because like ideally, uh, basically what I'm getting at is they don't need to focus on color
Hmm.
as much as they need to focus on the content. And
That's good.
so it
That's a good
gets,
point.
I think when we're testing this, it's monotonous, but when they're learning it, um,
Oh, sorry.
it's okay.
Jumped out.
The
But yeah,
color
when they're learning
really,
it,
it's
they're not
mostly
focusing on
to
the
give
colors.
it that artistic flair. It's not to actually do any of the important instructional design stuff. So
That's a good point.
as long as I think that as long as they're able to kind of get through it kind of quickly, because um, I think if we made it something that was really involved, then the nurses would be like, I don't really want to. They have a very small attention span,
And they
given
have
that they're
very
taking
limited
like
free
the
time.
amount. Yeah,
Yeah,
like they're
that
just
makes sense.
inundated with stuff in this semester. So,
Yeah,
um,
get it right to the point. Makes sense.
yeah.
Okay, yeah. So in terms of pill bottles, Yeah, so the question I had was, I guess it was an instructional design question. It was about the antidepressants and a couple of these other ones. Um, so I was wondering, do we want to teach them the shorthand or the longhand? So like SSRIs, that's serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Do we want the pill bottle to say SSRI, or do we want to say serotonin reuptake inhibitors? And I guess that's more of a question of what it actually looks like in the field. Will people be calling it that, or will they be calling it the long names?
So they'll know it quickly by SSRI in the field.
Mhm.
But I think that's a good question to
Yeah, like now's the time to decide that before we put the shorthand in.
exactly.
Yeah.
We might be able to. What do we have on there right now? I don't even remember. It's been so damn
Well,
long.
it's relevant to a bunch of them. So tricyclic
Okay.
antidepressants are called TCAs, and in the programming I'm calling them TCAs, but the user never sees that. That's just for me.
Right.
But we're starting to get to the point where my stuff is no longer becoming private. We're getting to the phase where like, okay, we're actually making things that the user will see, and I just want to make sure that they don't see any TCAs if we're not going to have the user call it that.
Right. So that yeah, I get what you're saying.
It's a factor for TCAs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and something called broncho bronchodilator,
So dilator,
bronchodilator, bronchodilator. I don't know.
bronchodilator.
That one.
It doesn't sound like what it looks like for sure, but it's a bronchial, like the inhalers and stuff, I think.
Oh, bronchiolator. Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know where that D
bronchodilator.
comes from, but
Oh,
yeah.
they're dilating the bronchial tubes.
Oh, that makes sense. Which is the point of
Yeah.
this game, so we can understand the roots of this. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So, do we want to call it? Yeah. So basically, I guess what I'd encourage you guys to do is for this chart that I had got from you previously, just to give it a double check and make sure that the pill bottles would be, what we want them to be.
Yeah.
This doesn't need to be done this week. They could probably wait up until like even 2 weeks from now, but just know
Yeah.
that that's coming up, basically.
Let me see what I've got on antidepressants. I just looked at one, and I think I'm writing the overall. I think it would make more sense to start with it spelled out a little bit, like with the whole thing. Just like in a paper, yeah, okay, so I've got selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, and then parentheses SSRI. I think that's a good way to do it.
Okay, like all that
Um,
on the pill bottle. I mean, that's
yeah, like
no, no.
all
I
of
mean, I
that's on
agree.
the.
That's the best way to do it. I'm just wondering if aesthetically that might be. Well, actually, no, because the pill bottles they're not looking at quickly. They're actually going to read the pill bottles. It's the pill that they're reading quickly. So,
Yeah,
yeah. As long as we can make it look
yeah.
good, then yeah, that's fine.
I'll
Okay.
keep it. I'll make sure that they're all consistent though, because that is something good to check to make sure that they've got like if there is a any kind of nickname for it or acronym used for it, that we've got it on there.
Yeah.
And then we can decide in any, and hell, that could be a whole nother thing eventually that we look at is, okay,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah. Speaking of
make
which,
it part of the gameplay to go, okay, do you know how to identify this quickly? But honestly, with how much they study it, I think they get it pretty quickly when it's,
yeah, the human mind really
um,
snaps to shortcuts, So I don't think we need to go out of our way for the shortcuts.
they even have, um, nicknames and acronyms for their classes. So like care of the adult client, they call it COTAC.
Yeah.
So they acronym everything.
Yeah.
So I think we'll be okay just to kind of doing the parentheses for it.
Okay. Um, Speaking of which, so this was made for a completely different reason. You guys made this just to inform us and for the milestone report, etc. But I'm kind of using it as like a template of like how to fill in the programming, and the programming is case sensitive. I'm wondering, oh, this, can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Discord gave me an error. Okay, that's weird. But anyway,
Yeah,
I'm
you still sound fine.
what was that, Gabby?
I said you still sound fine. I'm just sitting here listening.
Oh, gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, so some in the programming, it's case sensitive. I was just wondering if you guys would mind going over this and like giving me like a case sensitive official version kind of thing. So, for example, in second gen antihistamine, would antihistamine be capitalized and whatnot? It's minor, but like basically the programming also determines the menus. It determines the score. It determines like things that may show up in the UI and whatnot. And so it'd be helpful just to avoid errors later to look over it.
Yeah.
Okay.
For the programming aspect, what I do to keep that, like anytime I'm doing programming is I keep it lowercase, just overall, unless I know that there's like certain objects that you do with the, like we went into all that, but generally I do all lowercase just to keep it consistent for myself.
I think I'll do that for in future because it's getting a little too confusing. I mean, it's done. It's done now for level 1.
Right.
But yeah, for the future, I think that's a learning experience for me. Okay.
Yeah, I definitely. And they made a big deal of it in the class that we took with what's his butt that was aggro and I don't even remember his name.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that guy. But and I do get it, but honestly, if it works, that's just the way that I do it because it always works. If I always do that consistently.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure if I eventually got some programming job and started, needing to do these things this way, but we're not to that point, so I just do it all lowercase.
I gotcha. I mean, it's consistency. That's the important part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you don't have to think about it a ton.
Exactly. Last thing, Gabby, you still there? It'd be nice to get Gabby's input on something that we talked about in a previous meeting, Tara. Which is what I was thinking for level 3. The reason I bring it up is because I think what I'm going to ask Professor Kanan to work with me on is like a skeleton of level 3. Partially just because I've been wanting some supervision on this. Like I'm kind of like throwing this together. It'd be nice to have like a professional, sit down and work with me on it. But previously we kind of fleshed out an idea of it, if you remember, like a couple months ago. And I don't know if anyone except for us has heard the idea. So yeah, Gabby.
So we talked about, I know you put together your idea, and then Gabby and I talked about a different idea. So I think we've got 2 ideas floating around.
So it's a good thing we're having this.
And that's where that's where I want to make sure that it gets clarified what we move forward with.
All right.
Because if we're gonna before we start making anything, I don't even think we're to that point yet. So.
Okay, so let's clarify then. So what's like a quick version of what you guys were talking about before then, for level 3?
I better remember.
Yeah, because mine was more. Oh, sorry, I'm realizing I'm looking at the wrong camera. Mine was more like gameplay, and so the gameplay follows the instructional design. So let's get yours all situated, and so let's see if we can wrap in some of the gameplay stuff that we were talking about.
I think what Gabby and I discussed, Gabby, feel free to jump in but what we discussed when we sat down and looked at the scaffolding for levels 1 and 2, that's when we really started to kind of hone in and go, okay, so with level 2, are they suddenly being asked to take instead of taking the prefix, suffix, and root, we're suddenly giving them the whole generic name and then asking them to apply the indications. So they were like, well, that's the introduction of 2 new things, the full generic name and the indication. So basically what we discussed and this was after my discussion with you, Stephen, and then with all class stuff, so she and I were discussing, okay, we skipped scaffolding the prefix, suffix, and root with the indication. So let's do that for level 2. And then level 3 should be the full generic name and the indication, because then it's something that they practice already. They're already like familiar with the indication, but now they're needing to be.
Were we doing full generic at level 2 or level 3? I thought the full generic name was going to come in on level 3, not level 2.
Right. That's what we just, that's, so.
Maybe I
That's
misunderstood
where-
you. I was choosing a cat, a dog, and a child.
It's fine. So full generic would be, along with the designation, would be level 3. The first one is just the roots, and then the middle one would be applying the roots to suffix prefixes and introducing indication so that they can use it in level 3. Am I getting that right?
So level 1 is prefix, suffix, and root, and the classification of the drug.
Well, what we have so far in level 1 is this. I thought this was just the roots. Is this?
But then it's paired with the classification. They're pairing the prefix, suffix, and root with the classification.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So. Okay.
So then with
my
level.
main question is: are any of these prefixes? I thought these were suffixes.
I think primarily that list is suffixes, but there might be an occasional one there.
Okay, so as long as we're talking about the same thing. So we're talking about
Yeah.
these, though. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And then
these
so
are
for
with
level
classification.
2, I was under the impression, in my mind, and this is where it was good that Gabby and I sat and talked, because she's like, wait, so are we now going to full generic and going to full indication in level 2? Because that skips a whole step for the learner. And I was like, you are totally right. I missed that. So it's now level 2 we're saying is still prefix, suffix, root, but then we're pairing it with indication instead of classification. So the learner needs to know that if it's a barbitol, then that gets paired with whatever that's treating, which is not the benzodiazepine part, but we're actually saying, okay, now you guys need to pair this with this treats anxiety, you know?
Yeah, so, okay, can I get some clarification on that? First of all, love the idea. That's really good scaffolding. But in terms of making it clear, because that's it's really similar to what you and I were talking about, Tara. I just want to make sure that it either is or isn't the same thing. So for level 2, let's say that they get the 18 and they already know that it's a second-gen antihistamine, but instead of testing them for that, now we're testing whether or not they know that it's upper respiratory. Is that what we're asking for, or are we asking them when you say indication?
We're going to give them a disease and say, okay, so now instead of just you knowing how to classify that drug with the bottle, we're saying, oh, now you're going to be able to start saying, we see a patient, you know, and we'll have, I think we already have it where it's on the little clipboard, right? So the patient summary. And it says on there what the patient has, essentially. So the easiest one for me is the beta blockers. So if it's one of the alol, the suffix with alol, then the learner will see like heart, high blood pressure on there. And so instead of them going with beta blocker like they do in the first level, because this is where they're starting to piece together, beta blockers, which I know now have this suffix, those treat this over here. So that's where it's that next step.
So we mentioned that in our meeting that you had right before the one with Gabby, and the reason why we weren't going in that direction at the time was because we thought that focusing on the part of the body needs to be understood before we talk about the diseases. It's easier to group these by parts of the body than diseases. I agree that diseases might be the right way to go, but do we still feel that way, that it's too hard to classify so many different diseases?
They just have to know which of the medication goes with, like, which of the diseases.
And do we have
like they just that's how they, like, in the class. I don't know. And Gabby, I don't know your thoughts on how we haven't really fleshed out how we're talking about the organs. And
Well,
honestly, I
So
don't know.
for the organ part, what that was referring to was like major side effects. So major, the way that certain medications can adversely affect major organs. That's what that organ part of the acronym is for. So like it's related to like is that if is maybe like overdosing on a certain medication going to cause heart failure, lung failure, or liver failure, or whatever. Like it affecting major organs that would kill you, basically.
okay.
Which makes sense. Why you
Yeah.
want to learn things that affect major organs?
So
So like if it causes a skin rash, like okay, yeah, that's a side effect and it's probably uncomfortable, but like if the nurse doesn't know right away, like it's not a big deal. But if it's causing, heart failure, that's a big deal.
absolutely. So I have an idea for a gameplay way to approach this, because what I'm trying to get out of this meeting is so that when I meet with Professor Kanan on Monday, I know how to tailor the skeleton. Maybe I can make something that simultaneously can be used um, to teach indication, to teach the disease recognition, and also a way to recognize side effects based off of the organs. So like just a template that can be applied. So potentially the same tool can be turned into a level 4 or something, like if you know what I mean by that. Um, so that if we do want to go into that direction, that way um, what would help me though is can I get like, it doesn't have to be an official one, but can I get some examples of like different diseases? So you said like heart failure, or like what other types of things, just to get some examples.
So the diseases themselves, like, so we could do like high blood pressure would be for that a lull, but we would have to figure out like what the indication is, or the contraindication for that is.
Yeah.
So, so if somebody, because what the nurses are doing, or they're learning how to pair, like, oh, okay, I'm gonna say maybe we should provide this medication, but you also have to know that if they also have this like liver issue over here, that you're not gonna be able to prescribe that one that has this like liver contraindication. So that's where the scaffolding has to be really intentional in this game,
Mm.
because they're starting to piece those things together.
So, if you guys are willing to embrace the complexity of it, so maybe level 2 phase 1 is the indications, level 2 phase 2 is the indications along with the contra indications, so that they think that they're going through it just like normal, but then all of a sudden they have to deal with, oh my god, what if the blood pressure is too low, which I think is what you mean by the contraindication, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so
Well, if there's, there, and that's where we kind of need more of the subject matter expert to step in and be able to say, because especially since dealing with health related stuff,
mhm.
um,
Okay,
we would
so
definitely,
yeah, that doesn't need to be filled in right now, because I can still build like some gameplay around it, then we can fill it in. I just want to make sure it's going in the right type of thing. So something
I
that
think what I'd like to do though is to make sure that, because you said 2.1 and then 2.2. So I think what the whole point of the level 4 is to bring together level 1, level 2, and level 3.
mhm,
So I don't, maybe it's just semantics that we're like, but I want to make sure that
yeah,
it's distinct enough while they're learning it. That they're not having to go, they're not getting like just suddenly it builds too quickly for them. Because I know that the gameplay can be boring, but we're going to intensify it in level 4 where they're putting all those things together. So,
gotcha. So
if we
don't get too
do
complex or
discuss
too
the like, oh, go ahead.
well, the fact that I'm no longer designing a level 3, I'm designing a level 2, definitely encourages me to scale it down for sure and to simplify it, which, given the amount of time, makes a lot of sense. The reason I was saying 2.1, 2.2 is because I guess I didn't understand what you meant. I was thinking that I designed something for side effects and a separate thing, for the indication. Now I understand. I have a better idea of what you and Gabby are saying, that it's the indication and contraindication within the same learning section. So it's I no longer think there needs to be phases. So that was just me not fully understanding
Oh,
when I
gotcha,
mentioned that.
gotcha.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that.
no, I have a much stronger idea. It helped me to be able to have like a hot list. So what if we just use the stuff that we have right now? So like anti-anxiety. What if like I know.
Exactly. That way it's scaffolding what they already learned. And then as we build the game, like as we, because there's so many different medications, we can make this thing really robust eventually. But we were hoping to stick with the highlighted ones throughout so that there's no just sudden new
So
pills
maybe
or new information
a
in
suggestion.
any of the new levels.
Sorry, I keep talking over you. There's
No, that's okay.
delay on Discord. I'm not trying to do it.
It's okay.
Yeah. A way that we could highlight that without adding work is maybe we can like really for what are we on level two? Level two, we could really emphasize certain ones of these. So for example, like out of the antidepressants, these two SNRIs and SSRIs, they're both reuptake inhibitors. So what's the counter indication is what if it's reuptaking too much, and now there's a deficit within the synapse. That would be the counter. And so, not to say that tricyclic antidepressant isn't important, but just for the sake of emphasis within level two, maybe we could focus on these ones that have very clear contra. Is it contraindication or counterindication, or is it the same thing?
I've heard contra. I let
Okay.
me, but I just hear it from the schools though.
Okay.
Yeah, contraindication.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
for this one, the contraindication would be there's not enough of it in the synapse, so we're going to stop the reuptake or slow down the reuptake so that it gets plentifully filled. And then the contra is, oh my gosh, we slowed it down too much, and now it's flooded. You know.
I think if we're gonna incorporate, see, this is why level 3 is still kind of a big question mark, is because we need the subject matter experts to kind of walk us through this so that we're not making any assumptions about what the students need to know about. And I can definitely like talk to Angie, who's been our SME
Mhm.
previously. And actually, I wanted to, Gabby, I don't know if you're listening, but I thought it was really cool. Just me reaching out to her and saying, hey, we're making this game. Students started showing, like, it showed up on Ameritech's Instagram, and Angie started incorporating pharmacology games that already exist into her class because we kind of prompted this by like saying, hey, so we were thinking a game would be cool. And so she found something online that already, and it's not nearly as robust as what we're doing. And stuff. But I just thought it was really cool that we already had an influence over
Yeah.
what the students are learning. Yeah, I liked hearing that. And I didn't even hear it from her. I just saw it on the school's Instagram, and the student was like, learning pharmacology while playing games. I was like, yes, Angie. Like, get it.
That's awesome.
But yeah, if I can reach out to her and get a little bit more information on the contraindications part so we can have a little more clarity. But for now, if we can, with level 2, just focus on the indications and the prefix, suffix, and root, I think we're good.
So seeing as level three is now moved around, I guess everything that it was planning for level three is kind of going out the window. So I'm wondering if there's a way that some of the gameplay I've already built can be repurposed. It's totally cool if it can't. But what I had already built is I'd already built a way to make it so drag and drop can be combined with like side scroller shooter. And so I know that we don't want the gameplay to lead the learning. We want the instructional design to lead the learning. But I was wondering if any of that might be usable within this context. I think within teaching contra and like indication and contraindication, something like a balancing act might be a better visual. So I don't know what you guys thought about that. If that might be a problematic depiction or not. But maybe some of the
Honestly, I
balance
kind of
beam or
feel like
something.
what you've already created is kind of the scaffolding for, like, it's what you already did was kind of practiced creating the shooter aspect of things that is going to be a part of it. We just don't have the whole
Okay.
enchilada put together yet. As far as like
Well, I was thinking maybe like
the
like I'm
bad
thinking.
guys and stuff, I don't know where
Well, we make them the disease, like whatever the word is for low blood pressure. We'd have like a thing for like a circle and it says high blood pressure, like, and we make it like an enemy or whatever. I don't know. You know, like the germs in Dr. Mario aren't specific; they're just generic germs. So we just make a generic thing for high blood pressure, a generic thing for low blood pressure, a generic thing for whatever the word is for too much in the synapse, and whatever the thing and another thing for depression. You know.
I haven't seen, I don't, it's been so long since I played Dr. Mario.
Yeah,
Let
all right.
me,
Well, I got a screen share. You want to see? Dr. Mario germs.
germs.
Yeah, these guys. Yeah, they're not specific, but you know, they're just these three.
And then where do they come into play? Can you do a
Well,
YouTube
this is
video of it?
so in Dr. Mario, it's a puzzle game, and you're stacking. But as you did I lose you guys?
No, I'm here.
No, you're here.
No, we're still here. We're watching.
Yeah, all right. Yeah. Yeah, so as you stack them, you match the different color pills, and
What
if
the
you
fuck? I have literally never seen this game before.
wait, you've never
Really?
seen Dr. Mario? It's a classic. Oh my gosh.
It
No.
is a classic.
Yeah, this is from like
It's just
the
been so
early
long.
90s. This is the new version, I guess I'm showing you. But yeah, you stack them, and then eventually you defeat them one by one, and then the patient gets better. And then there's like a jazzy soundtrack for if you are curing the quote unquote chills, and then there's like a fast paced soundtrack if you're curing a quote unquote fever. And that's about the
Whoa.
extent of the medical connection. It's really just a
Wait, but
puzzle.
where are the germs coming into play?
They're just a generic thing for you to defeat because people attach
Oh,
an idea better if they like can see the reactions. So like yeah, they're doing something here, but people attach something to seeing a face's reaction. So these are basically just all faces, you know. But my point was these aren't specific, and neither do our enemies.
yeah,
You know.
I like that. Gabby, what do you think?
So, tell me how. Okay. Walk me through what it would look like.
It would look like a generic enemy, and above it it says high blood pressure. And then
Okay.
this one would say depression.
And then what is the gameplay like?
Well, that's something that we'd have to talk
Same?
more about. What it was originally going to be, which it sounds like it's changing now that I'm no longer designing a level 3. Previously, I was trying to combine the drag and drop with the collecting pills, and my idea for that was a shooter where you're loading a slingshot, and so you're using drag and drop to bring the pills up to the slingshot, and then you're using shooting commands like to shoot the slingshot at the different diseases. And so like you have like 5 medications on the table right here. You take the one that's good for depression, you load it up into the slingshot, and then you with arrow keys, which teaches the arrow keys, goes up to where the enemy is, and then you shoot it at the enemy that is labeled depression. And so you're shooting the antidepressant at the depression. And if you shoot the wrong one at the wrong thing, you lose points, or even worse, you lose and you have to restart the phase.
Maybe we've been overcomplicating level 4. So what I really like about Talal's design for level 4 was how organized it is with the tapper. Was that what it was modeled after? So maybe
Pancreas and
level
zombies.
3 is more of the tapper. What's that?
Well, level 3 was meant to be like a foreshadowing of level 4. It's meant to be like
Right. So maybe that, like, because level 3 we don't actually have any thoughts on
so
what
are
the
we
gameplay really would be. So maybe that's where we introduce an organized way of shooting.
Mhm.
And then level 4 is where it gets a little bit more, I don't know.
Gameplay-y, yeah.
Yeah, gameplay.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I mean, really, all I was thinking, the most complex quote-unquote gameplay I was thinking was like the enemies would move in a circle. Like that's the most complex it would be. Level 4, they'd be like actually dodging you and shooting back and stuff. But for level 3, when I was designing a level 3, I was thinking literally just it's just a move, hit a moving target. That's it, you know.
But I don't think that level 4 was ever going to be kind of the, like,
Well,
where things.
it was the tapper thing with the phases and it was like what we were talking about before. The reason
Oh,
why
but I'm saying, what if we moved that to level 3? And then it got a little bit more like once, because then they're introduced to that shooting function.
okay, that's fine, and maybe we
What
can
do you
make
think?
like the credits like the pill drop one just so because we already have it. I don't know.
No, level 2 is the pill drop.
Okay, wait, so we are keeping that as level 2. I thought we were designing a new
Yeah.
level 2 right now.
No. Level 2 is the indication. The only thing we're changing about, and we actually, this is where Gabby and I were confused. Like, well, I was confused, and Gabby was like, "Oh no, we're keeping prefix, suffix, root." I jumped right to generic, full
Mhm.
generic. That's not what we're doing.
Okay.
So
Okay,
the
so
only piece that changed in that concept was that it's the prefix, suffix, root, the indication. Then the next piece is the full generic and the indication.
okay, so in terms of gameplay, the gameplay's staying the same for level 2. It's just what's on the pills is changing. It,
Yep.
I'm wondering. I mean, that's easier for me, and that works better with my original idea. But in terms of getting the idea across between indication and contraindication, is there a way that we can kind of tweak the gameplay of level 2 to have that?
That's where we're saying the contraindication part would probably come into play in level 3 as opposed to
Got it.
level 2.
Okay, sweet. Okay, that makes it clear. Sweet. And
If
so,
like that, because we do still need to introduce that part, but that's where we kind of still haven't gotten enough information from the SME to say, okay, we feel really good about how we're incorporating the contraindication.
okay.
And once we have those like fields in the spreadsheet filled out and we know a little bit more where we're going with that, it should be easier to figure out the gameplay for it. But if we start designing the contraindication part, then that's we'll just inherently put the gameplay before the instructional design because
Makes
we
sense.
don't know enough about the
So,
contraindication part.
okay. Yeah, well, I do understand the idea of a contraindication, so I can get the general idea. But yeah, you're right. I don't want to flesh it out too much before, consulting the actual content. So what I'd like to do is basically redesign level 3 then, now that I know that it's about contraindication, to some kind of balancing game, because I think that's just a better idea, better representation. If I can't get that working or whatnot, we can always fall back on what I had before with the shooting. But
Yeah.
it'd be nicer, especially if I have some type of, you know, supervision with Professor Kanan. I don't know if that's
Well, yeah, I think that's perfect to like play around with stuff during that time to like, I don't know how how far, because now that you're basically done with level 1, Talal was level 2 was kind of Talal's baby, right?
level 2 was made before I got here. I don't know. That's pill
Yeah.
drop.
So I
Yeah.
think it was Talal's. So yeah, with him
Well, I
working
think
on
you got
level
that from the
2,
prefab. Yeah. Like, I think that one was purchased online as well.
was
Level 2, he built it.
Oh, he built it? Okay, it was in a separate folder.
Yeah, he
With
built
the
it.
dummy robot. So
Yeah.
what was purchased? It was
I don't think he bought a prefab. I think he put all the elements together, and then he said once you get like the first thing down, then you can copy.
okay. Yeah, we bought the robot for sure. But so that's why you'll see all the animation and all the fun stuff with, and feel free to play around with now that we know a tiny bit more about animation. Also, what the hell? Why is this piece coming into play now with the animation? It seems bizarre, but we won't go there.
I would have liked all the Unity classes together. So. But,
yeah. Yeah. So
yeah, that would have been way
I think that will be more of a conversation for the programmers to allocate that. I think, like he said, it's probably easy for him to do those. I think I need to make all the pills for.
Okay.
Or,
so yeah, so I'll do. Yeah,
oh wait, no, since we're doing the prefix, suffix, and root for those are already done.
Yeah. So just get into contact with Talal about the changes to level 2, and I'll just
okay. And then you're gonna kind of come up with another proof of concept for level 3, doing the balancing, maybe.
I'm gonna talk to Professor Kanan first on Monday, just to get an idea. But it'd be nice to start from the ground up now that I have a better idea of what we're designing. If not, then I can continue with what I was making for level 3.
One thing, if you do the balancing type of thing, which I like conceptually, like you said, for the indication and contraindication, but one of the things with level 3 was the introduction of the shooting, so that for level.
It's a good point.
So I don't know.
Yeah, it kind
just
of
keep that in mind.
So, no, that's a good point. Because drag and drop is easy for that, but maybe you have to balance your ship. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But I'll think about it. Yeah, and the other thing was I'm still adamant about doing the soundtrack. I fell behind on it because Tracy's work kind of took priority. But I have all the software and have all the gear. But I'm still adamant on doing that. So.
Fun. I'm excited to hear it.
Thank
you so much for keeping this moving, Stephen. I really appreciate it.
Oh, good. Yeah. Yeah. It's exciting. There was one other question. I'm racking my brain about it. Here, would you hang on for 1 second? While I pull up Discord.
Yeah.
Discord.
Gabby.
Yeah, I'm still here.
I had my final interview with Intermountain and it went really well.
Oh shit! Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Keep bringing me back. They're like, again, and I'm like, what? Y'all streamline this, and while I'm with you the first time, get the questions out. And we're messing around with me and stuff, and I think they were feeling out whether I have a sense of humor. But this one. Huh?
For my job, when they hired me, I did 4 interviews. 4.
I'm on the 4th now. It's insane. So this is normal now, huh?
Yeah, that's normal for these kinds of companies that are going to pay you more than standard minimum wage.
Yeah, that's what I want.
Congrats.
So I think it's a good sign they keep bringing you back in. That probably means you're in good shape.
I hope.
Yeah. Did they tell you when you're gonna hear? If they're gonna call you back? When?
They said as early as next week, but the hiring manager, the leader, she's the learning experience pathways.
Okay.
Learning experience pathway manager. And she was just smiling ear to ear the whole interview, which makes me happy. And the other guys, go ahead.
Did they give you comments yeah, some of this almost telling you this is what you're gonna be doing at your job kind of comments?
Not somewhat. They were careful about their language, but they did emphasize how they're you're definitely a top candidate, and this person, they were really good about saying this person would do this, and but I think they did less of that than I'm accustomed to, because the job and the role is not fully fleshed out yet, and so they're still we need somebody that's basically they just restructured. So it's going to be a lot of changes. And so I think they're still figuring out, like, they can't say definitively, this person will be doing this, this, and that. Like, I was still getting some of those things, but it wasn't like as clear as it normally is. And that's part of why they want me to come on, is because they're like, it's not clear, but we like process people, and that's me. I love a good process. So
Congrats.
thanks. I'm excited.
Real quick, because we are still recording. My question was for Gabby. So yeah, you had to, like, 2 months ago or whenever we figured out Unity Colab, we got it working after you had left the meeting. I just wanted to make sure that you had the ability to access it. Just we didn't mean to box you out. Just we only have 3 logins, and so did someone give you their login so that you could get into the game? I know, Tara, you said that you're cool with not being in the game.
Yeah, I don't want it.
Yeah. Gabby, did someone give you the login info? Gab- ah.
There she is.
There she is.
Oh, it got weird. I was like in the middle of a sentence and then it didn't work. And then I saw Tara say, I don't want it. And I was like, okay, obviously this is not working.
We heard you say that. We didn't hear anything before that, though. Did we lose her again?
No, I'm still here. My internet's just unstable.
All right, answer quick before you leave. Yeah, did someone share with you the login so that you can get into the Unity Colab?
Into the what app? I'm sorry?
The Unity Colab.
No, because I think right now it's you, Jacinto, and Talal.
Yeah, and so the workaround that we have is that you can just use one of our logins, and you just sign in using our CSUN information, and then you can get into the game. So we're
Yeah, no.
Okay, so here, how about I can send that to you in a Discord message. You could just have my CSUN
Yeah,
login.
that way we can get in there.
Don't sign me up for any weird CSUN classes, and it should be fun.
No.
All right, sounds good. So yeah, let's talk again on Thursday after I meet with Professor Kanan, and hopefully I'll have somewhat of an idea of that. When's the subject matter expert going to talk to you guys?
I can reach out to her tomorrow, which I probably won't hear back from her until next week, given that tomorrow's Friday.
But yeah, if you reach out now, that give her some time, so that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, she's usually pretty quick, so yeah, I'll ask her what information she can give us. I'll give her the specific highlighted ones and say, do you mind if we meet? And then I ask you some questions about contra, like indications and contraindications, what you would be sharing with the students about those things. And I'll try to get, because so far we've just emailed back and forth, but I think it might bode well if I actually get her on Zoom, and I'll try to record that if I can get her. I know it is about to be finals time, so
get her before that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if she'll meet with me next week before she starts getting slammed.
Love that. So I think what I'm gonna do is this week I'm gonna try to just make a generic mock-up with like pill bottles, like, and they may not even be labeled correctly, but just to show the general structure, just because right now level 1's almost working, but I don't have anything to show for it, so I'm gonna try to get something a little bit more physically put together for you guys.
How come? What do you mean you don't have anything to show for it?
So like we were talking about how phase 1 is going to be 1 bottle, the next one's going to be 2, the next one's going to be 3, but we don't have that built in, so I just want to make it real, you know.
Oh, let me make that for us tomorrow so that you can actually use the real thing, so that you're not like behind in the pill bottles. Because I know it stopped somewhere, but I don't remember where it stopped making them. But it's relatively easy for me now that I have the template to fill them in. So I'll get those to you. I will just upload them into the Google Drive and then let you know on Discord that I've uploaded the rest.
Great. All right. Sounds good, Tim.
Cool.
All right.
All right.
I'm going to put the recording of this on YouTube, and then I'll put it on the Discord as well.
All right. Awesome.
Sounds
Thanks,
good.
guys.
Yep.